Energy funnels, all of me, all my energy, all the information coming at once, all the messages, the intuitions, the signs, the signals, all of it at once, from the immensity, the infinity, the universe, the all of me, to my body, the physicality, the finite, the material. But what, if anything, can come through that narrow pathway? What can come through that many times, or most of the times for many, non existent pathway? That narrow and many times non existent pathway between the non physical and the physical. The image that comes to my being is a pipe, a funnel, and all of it, everything that is out there in the wide open, trying to come through the funnel all at once. But what out of all of it can actually pass through that so very narrow and, for many people, non existent pathway? And most importantly, how can the entrance and the whole pathway stay intact without breaking in the presence of all of that energy and that immensity trying to come in all at once? It is like the bandwidth, and the broadband, or electricity trying to get through a wire. If the wire is too thin, either the electricity won't be able to go through or the wire will break. It is like the veins and the arteries in the body, or the rivers, waterways, and canals on planet Earth. If too much tries to flow all at once, different events may take place. From the pathway breaking up and collapsing due to so much intensity, to the all of it that came in all at once, overflowing and flooding everything around it, without any certain direction. In either case, and all of the ones in between, the all of it that came in all at once does not get to where it needed to get. Basically, it is all wasted energy. This wasted energy can cause lots of damage sometimes. The only possible way to at least begin to be able to allow some of the all of it to pass through, even if the slightest amount at first, is to keep our being in a state of purity. Our thoughts, our emotions, feelings, and actions need to be in an utmost state of purity. In order to accomplish this, we need to decrease and eventually totally eliminate all kinds of interferences entering our system, from the most obvious ways to the most subtle ones, from what we put directly in our body to what we put directly in our mind, our heart, and our soul, from the food we eat, what we drink, to the people we interact with, the kinds of information and even music we focus on, to the thoughts we entertain, and yes, even and most importantly, the sentimental, sensual, and sexual interactions we put in our system. Everything, absolutely everything we focus on has a tremendous impact on the ability of the first part of the funnel to work properly, whether we realize it or not. And then the funnel gets worse, to call it some kind of way. When the moment comes when everything has to go from me into the outer physical world, whether it be through a website, books, or any other way, it gets harder and more concrete. How to translate everything I am sensing, feeling, and perceiving from the immensity, the infinity, the universe, the all of me, and transfer into my body the physicality, the finite, the material. How? How to properly translate everything that comes to me from the non-physical and transform it into a physical creation. In this part of the funnel, everything feels much more stiff, more solid, much more full of interferences and friction. Definitely more dense, slow, almost unmovable. There is definitely a lot of shoving and pushing involved, a lot of physical action involved, a great deal of contradictions, inconsistencies, and even deceptions. But the intense desire to do it continues to push from within me. And there is nothing else in the world I would want to do more than that. Continue doing it, no matter what. From the non-physical into my body through the first part of the funnel, from my body into the physical through the second part of the funnel. The first part feels much less dense, from air to water, from air to the softness of my body, my feelings, emotions, and perceptions. The second part feels very dense, from water, from the softness of it all, to the concrete, to the density of the physical world. I have been living all of these processes for almost 7 years now, and they still amaze me, just as if it were the very first time I've noticed them. At the beginning of it all, everything was the confusing and even overwhelming for me. As the years passed and I allowed my whole being to be part of these processes more and more, the confusion subsided a great deal. Now I understand and know many aspects of all of it, and most important, many aspects of me. Yes, the confusion subsided, and I do not feel overwhelmed anymore, really. But I have never been able to stop feeling in total amazement sometimes and in admiration always. These processes continue to nicely surprise me every time. And when I am convinced I totally mastered them and that I totally mastered the whole of me, no, not at all. It is as if in that precise instant in which I feel that I arrived, in reality I did not arrive to the culmination of anything. I simply arrived to a certain significant point in my journey, and from there everything gets intensified again in terms of what is expected of me and in the level and degree of allowing devotion and purity I need to reach. In all these years, from that very beginning, when I felt the undeniable presence of all that love everywhere around me and inside me in an instant, to everything I have lived within me up to this point, I have always felt an infinite honor. I cannot find a way to accurately describe it. Endless amazement at everything that has happened to me, inside of me and around me, throughout this beautiful journey. They are not from above to below funnels. They are not top-down funnels, not at all. They are funnels, pathways from everywhere to everywhere. From everywhere in the non-physical to everywhere in the physical. They are multidimensional funnels. This is from my book Soul Kaleidoscopes, and I wrote it and finished writing it in April 26th of 2020. Thank you.